And I've got Noel Sawyer, who is a sitting council member. He's been on council for 6 years. He middle of his second term. And something that happens often, and I've seen it happen here in Woodland Park, is that second term, because mayoral positions or the mayor position is only a 2-year term, a lot of council members will take that second half of their term and they will run for council. Now, if Noel Sawyer gets elected as mayor, his seat on council will be vacant. But if he doesn't get elected, we still get to keep Noel around on council for another 2 years. So he will still be a council member, or he is potentially could be our new mayor. So Noel, thanks for joining us today. I know that you might get a little heat for coming on the underground, but nevertheless, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. A lot of the community already knows me because I've been here since 2001. So I've been on council for 6 years, as you were saying, and a lot of accomplishments in the last 6 years. So I'd like to continue those accomplishments. I think we're going to get into more detail in those, but
absolutely. So yeah, just give me a brief bio. Kind of tell me how you came to Woodland Park, why you chose your Woodland Park to bring your family to and stuff.
I lived in Colorado. I moved to Colorado Springs in '86 from Cleveland. Don't hold that against me. And moved out here for divorce reasons with my mom, and we moved out here to stay with my uncle. I went to Rampart High School. I graduated there in '88. Went to Boulder on a full ride scholarship, an Evans scholarship, which is a caddying scholarship. And the hilarious part is I have no idea how to golf, but I can tell you how to golf. And so it's kind of funny that I got that. I got into Boulder on that scholarship and a track scholarship. I was one of the top milers and 2-milers in the state in high school. I ran a 4:21 mile and I ran a 9:46 2-mile. So I got into Boulder Division I track and then also the Evans scholarship. My line of study was physics, which it's boring. Nobody likes physics, and there's no future in physics. And so I moved it over to computer science, and then I was there for 2.5 years, and scholarship dwindled, and so then I decided to move to Colorado Springs and get a full-time job, and I was playing soccer because I'm a big soccer player, and I was playing in the men's league, and I was one of the games I played against the soccer coach for UCCS, and after the game he asked me to play for UCCS for a partial scholarship. And so then I went to UCCS to continue my education with computer information systems. Went there for 2 years. I also worked a full-time job and played soccer. It was very difficult. Decided that I couldn't do full-time school, full-time job, and full-time soccer. So I just went with a full-time job. I worked at Digital doing networking, troubleshooting, and building servers. Went from there to MCI at the end of Garden of the Gods. And that was actually a cool job because some of the stuff I did was operator networks. Back then, when you called an operator, there were 2 different lines. You would go from, there would be a data line and there'd be a voice line. Remember back in the day when you called the operator and there was a long pause? That's because they were waiting for the data to show up on the screen. And so I supported those networks, every 800 number.
Children that are on YouTube, there's this thing called the landline that we used to have. I know you don't see those landline. That's what he's talking about. He's dating himself there now. No.
Yeah, sorry.
Go on, Noel.
All the backbone stuff for the internet back in the day, the Sheriff Network, which was kind of cool. We used to have people that would call India, for example, and leave the phone off the hook to talk to family members, and we could never, they would then be charged if they were using, oh, remember the calling cards? So they would steal calling cards. And so the sheriff network would monitor how long a phone call was active. And so I made sure that was running. I made sure that all the MCI networks were working. I was the backbone controller. So it was pretty cool. I had a buddy that went to Oracle, called me up, said, hey, they're interviewing at Oracle in 98. And that's when I met my wife in 98. We met in Colorado Springs. She was teaching at the YMCA, and I was trying to be manly, and and I met her, and we started dating and got married in 2001. I started working at Oracle in 98, and we moved up to Woodland Park in 2001 after we had our son in 2000. And that's how I got here. My wife wanted to move up here. You do what your wife tells you to do. All right. You know that. We all know that. And we moved up here and been here ever since and been involved with the community.
When did you decide that like, I guess it was 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What made you get involved into like the political side of things in the community?
I'd already been involved in the nonprofits because I have a computer background, and I've had a small side business since 97, doing websites, building computers, tuning networks, servers, just really any computer related stuff. I was doing computer work for Senior Teller Coalition, Senior Center. They are different. Habitat for Humanity, I still do work for them. The Cupboard. I did some work for the nonprofit up in Divide. I forgot what they are, but I did all this stuff for free, and started to get into a little bit of the politics and see what was going on. And I knew some of the people that were on council, and some of my clients were people that were on council prior. And so when I'd go work on their systems, we'd talk about the politics in Woodland Park, and they always said, "Hey, you'd be a great council member. You're honest. You're easy to get along with. You'll work with anybody." I mean, I consider myself a pretty easygoing guy. I look at things reasonably. I make good decisions. I consider myself a good decision maker. I look at my life as consistently getting better every year, and so. Let's see, Eric Smith was deciding that on the fence whether he should run or not. And so he heard that I wanted to run, and Eric said, "Hey, why don't you run? And then I won't run." And so I replaced Eric Smith. And that's how I got on council. The one thing I want to emphasize is when I got on council, and I kind of look back now, I'm kind of mad at all those council members because I didn't get a single phone call. I didn't get a single request to meet. Nobody taught me anything. I got up on that dais for the first time, not having talked to any other council members on process, on things to do, how to do it. And that's where I'm different. I've reached out to you. I've reached out to several of the other candidates, and I want them to hit the ground running. I want them to know what the issues are. I want them to know how the processes work. I want to have a good sitting council as mayor, and I want to work with everybody. I don't want to have this animosity between council members. I don't want to have this individual agendas. I want to work together. And
yeah, what's been your observation? I don't know. I don't want to talk specific names, but have you seen that in the last 6 years? You're saying when you came on, no one reached out to you, no one, extended a hand, and yet we've actually spent a couple of hours on the phone a couple of times and talked about things, even as I put my name out there for council member. But and you were very helpful and a lot of insightful information. But what has been your experience with this council that you've been sitting on for 6 years? Has it been a group that could work together, or has there been some division?
Each council member has some skills, has a skill set. I consider myself as an IT guy. I understand that the future is in technology. We need to move out of the Stone Ages. The other council members, Kelly Case, for example, has a great finance background. So when it comes to any finance questions that the council has, we all turn our heads and look at her and say, okay, Kelly, kind of clarify that for us. Val is very detail oriented. He looks at things to the 10th degree, maybe a little too much, but you got to respect that. He definitely digs into the issues. Darwin's new. He's a very smart man. He has a very good background. Let's go with Paul. Paul's very knowledgeable in roads and building. So when it comes to building things, we all look at Paul and say, hey, what is this correct? I mean, what's going on? Is planning doing the right thing? So we all have a background that as a group together, we can solve a lot of good issues. Neil brings people together. He knows a lot of people in the community, and I think he's been a good mayor. He's really he's gone through a lot of roller coasters with the councils, and he's actually kept things civil. And Neil's a really good guy, and I wish he was running for mayor again, because that would make my decision easier. I wouldn't have to run for mayor, and I could just stay on council. But he's decided to move on. I think he's got beat up for the last 6 years, and it's not an easy position, and it's completely different than being a council member. When you're a mayor, you're representing the community as a whole. You're representing the community outside of the community to Manitou, to Colorado Springs, to El Paso County. You're representing to Cripple Creek, Aspen, Vale. You are the face of Woodland Park. And it's just not, we're not an island, obviously. And so we have to work with these other communities and also the county. And I believe I bring that to the table. I will work with anybody. I've talked to I've talked to all the commissioners. I've talked to the sheriff. We've had breakfast. I've talked to everybody. Let's put it that way.
Let's what is the business culture in Woodland Park? I've actually heard Mayor Levy say that Woodland Park is a wonderful place to live, but it's a very hard place to do business. And so in your own observation of that, and working with business owners, you've sat on the DDA board and been a liaison for the council to there. I'd love to hear that story, kind of when you got thrown into the DDA. But what is kind of, that was 6 years ago or 4 years ago or whenever, but what's the culture of business and business owners and their relationships with the city? Is there places we could grow in that? Is there things we could do to be better with business owners and stuff like that? But kind of give me your take on that.
So Mayor Levy is absolutely right. It is tough to do business up here. And the reason why is because it's seasonal. Right now are the slow months of the year. And I don't believe it's an issue with taxes. I don't believe it's an issue with mill levies. I don't believe that's the problem. The problem is it's seasonal. They do amazing in the summer. When we get our tax reports, our sales tax reports, you can see in January, February, March, and April, it is very low. Our tax, sales tax that we bring in is very low in those months. And then in the summer, it's a huge spike. I mean, we're talking $600,000 a month just in sales tax. Okay. And lodging tax goes up, and then it dips back down in October. And then all of a sudden December hits with the holidays and it jumps up. So the focus is, and I've had talks with a lot of the business owners, what's the focus? The focus is let's keep it consistent across the board. So we've got to find out how to bring people to Woodland Park in January, February, and March. And the Moose is Loose is a perfect example. And here's the great thing. The businesses did that. The city wasn't involved. They took the initiative to do the Moose is Loose. And I just went to the meeting a couple nights ago. It was at Tweeds, and wow, it is amazing. Every year they add something new to it, and they are adding something new to it this year. I'm not going to say what it is, but it's pretty exciting. And the talk in that group was it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger every year. I think they said it was around 15 years it's been around. Maybe that was a little too big of a number. But as a council member, my job is to work with the businesses to give them ideas. I can't give them tax breaks. That's the DDA's job. DDA gives incentives. The council by law can't do that.
Let's talk about the DDA. You have intimate knowledge of a lot of things that have happened over the last few years in the DDA. I don't know how much you can talk about, how much you can't talk about, but talk to me about your experience and how you came about getting on the DDA and how that works. What does the DDA do? A lot of people don't even understand that, and so maybe you could give us a brief description of what the DDA does.
I can give okay, so let's start with the DDA, Downtown Development Authority. It was established in 2001 because the city was kind of struggling to bring businesses up here. And so the DDA was formed to give tax breaks to new businesses that came up here or existing businesses. Okay, when I say tax break, what does that mean? The tax break is based off the property value assessment. All right, so let's take a perfect example. I will take just any business that comes up here. They're assessed at a property value, we'll just say $200,000. Okay. And you heard the word TIF, tax incremental financing. So that business will come to the DDA and say, hey, I want to get a TIF agreement. So the value of my building right now in property is $200,000. I want to do an agreement to improve my building. So I'm going to do some improvements to my building that are going to increase the value of it to $250,000. So the tax incremental increase is $50,000. All right. So that's now they have to pay a portion of that property tax. The TIF agreement is, okay, since you've made improvement to that building, we're going to do an agreement that we will give you a portion of that improvement back. So say they pay in property tax $1,000 after the assessed value and after the adjustment. We would do an agreement that they would get maybe $750 back each year of their own property tax. So it's actually a tax break, giving the money back that they've already paid. The DDA is a district. So all the property tax that the district pays goes into the DDA coffer, and the DDA coffer can use that for improvements or new builds or business that are like, let's start with all the buildings that have come here. We'll start with Dinosaur Museum. There's one. O'Reilly's, Tractor Supply, Dollar Store, The Human Being, which is just finished. So that was a big, that was our most recent. Big O Tires, that was one of them. So these are all businesses that came to the DDA and asked for, Trail Ridge, that's the big one. They definitely helped our community bring people up here to live and give affordable housing.
Quick question, because someone asked me and I wasn't 100% sure. What are the boundaries for the DDA? Do you know those kind of?
Yes. So if you go to I would say from Safeway is not in the boundary, but
it kind of goes.
Natural Grocers.
Natural Grocers is
all the way to City Market.
Is Walmart in the DDA?
No.
Okay, so it kind of stops, and then there's that little angle over to Natural Grocers, even though Natural Grocers is across the street from Safeway.
Trail Ridge.
None of the businesses that are in the Safeway shopping center are in the DDA, but Trail Ridge is in the DDA.
Correct.
Okay. And then all the way out to Natural Grocers. How far up, like towards Park State and all that, does it go?
It goes to the last building is, well, another project was the movie theater. That was
Okay.
DDA. And then, they're building apartments on top of the movie theater.
Yep.
Bill Page is doing that. That's a TIF agreement there also.
Okay.
So the DDA has brought a lot of great things to this town. And right now it seems like the black eye is Woodland Station, and we're working on that. I mean, it's a tough, you're dealing with government. It's not a basic buy the land, build a building. It doesn't work that way when you're dealing with government. And so that's why it's been such a challenge to build on Woodland Station.
Yeah. And I mean, you're being real nice to the DDA, by the way. I mean, they have also been the idea of a lawsuit in town. I mean, they did get into kind of a lawsuit with a business owner in town over the Woodland Station. They've had their challenges. There is a big division amongst at least the business owners I have spoken with that, the DDA, could we do what we do with the DDA without a committee? Could we do it with just a one-person administrative person that administrates the DDA, or do we have to have this little club committee that does this who gets a tax agreement? I don't want to, the DDA is a hot subject. It's a hot subject. It has been a hot subject. It does cause some dissension amongst business owners in the Downtown Development Authority. And so my question to you would be, could we do what we do with the DDA if we were to somehow shrink the committee, but had an administrative person that overlooked these TIF agreements and followed a certain guidelines to when to give TIF and not to give TIF?
That's a loaded question, Michael.
It absolutely is loaded.
I'm going to try to stay away from the.
He's going to stay away. He's going to defer. All right, let's move on.
No.
Let's talk about the schools of Woodland Park. Why do people I homeschool my children, but my son is involved in D12 and does aerospace lab down in the Springs through a public school system. But why is it when I speak with people, they're like, send your kids to Manitou, especially when they get into high school, send them to Manitou. Don't let them go to Woodland Park High School. Why is there this thing that I hear in town about our schools? I don't have kids in the school, so it's hard for me to talk about this or try to dig into this. But why is there this attitude about our schools in this way?
So let's go back about 10 years. 10 years, we had an enrollment, maybe a little longer. We had an enrollment about 12, just in the high school. We'll talk the high school. Right?
Okay.
We had about 1,200 in the high school. We're down to about 750. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It dropped a lot. And
wow. That's half.
The rumor was, and this is what there's a drug problem in our school. There's a drug problem. Well, if you step back, there's not a drug problem in our school. If there's a drug problem, it's in our community. And so you can't just isolate the school but it's interesting when you talk to anybody on the staff, they say, we have dogs that come through the school all the time sniffing lockers and they don't find anything. There's no drugs. So if there's a drug problem, it's not in the school, it's outside of the school or it's in our community. So that rumor has really gave the school a black eye. When I was coaching for 5 years at the high school, I didn't see that problem. I mean, all the kids that I coached were great kids. They were smart. They had good futures. They liked the school. Obviously, you're always going to complain about your teachers and homework. And I mean, we all did that. That's just the natural progression of being in high school. You have something to complain about, right? My son went to the school ever since he's been in the school system. He went to Manitou for 2 years. There was a bullying issue in the middle school. We pulled him out. We took him to Manitou for 3 years, and then he came back to Woodland Park. and he loved Woodland Park. So it's, when you ask, what can we do with our schools? Talk to your school board. Talk to Steve Wolf. He's actually a pretty amazing guy. I mean, he's really fun to talk to. He's got some great insight. He took a school that had some issues and looked at other opportunities. Now, where the school is going now with their grading system, I don't agree with it. But it's not I can't do anything about that. That's the school board's choice. I'm glad my son's out of the school, because the grading system is a way to get around the real issues that are going on there.
What are the real issues?
My issue was my son wanted to go to college, right? He's in college right now. He's up in Seattle going to college. The first problem we ran into is that the requirements to graduate and the requirements to get into a college are completely different. In college, you need 4 years of math, right? To graduate from a high school, you only need 3 years of math. Well, how are you going to get into college? Well, the counselors really didn't talk to my son about that. They said, oh, are you going to go to college? Yes. Okay. Well, if you're going to go to college, then this is what you need to do, not this just to graduate. So I think the focus should be more on requirements to graduate from Woodland Park should be the same as to get into college. That's what I think a big change should be. And so my son had to go a different route to get into college, and we got him there. But and I sat with the counselor, and the counselor says, "Oh, he's fine. He's doing great. He'll get into college, no problem." And then we go to apply to the colleges, and they're like, "You need this and this and this." And so, I mean, there's a lot more. I think the overall picture, the school's doing great. Obviously, there's things I can nitpick on, but the teachers are great, the staff are great, and I've worked with them for 5 years, and I didn't have a single issue there. So
I hear you, but I also hear that like there is an image issue. Maybe it's not that we have a real problem, but there is an image problem.
Yes, agreed.
And maybe they're working on, and I definitely have noticed, I don't know how long this has been going on, but I've noticed on social media, I believe, what did you say his name was? Steve
Wolf.
Yeah, Steve, they have picked up a social media, and even I think we had a commercial that recently ran on some of the stations down in the Springs and stuff for our schools. And so I think they are working on that issue. And I think that how much, and this question was actually, it was funny because I got an invite for the candidate forum coming up and I just want a little quick shout out. Candidate forum's happening on March 3rd at the high school, Dixon Auditorium. And then also March 11th at City Council Chamber. So one of them is going to be hosted by the high school. One of them is going to be hosted by the Chamber of Commerce. But I went back and I watched one of the old candidate forums, and it seemed like the school stuff came up last election. And I was like, oh, okay. And the question was, how much does City Council get involved? How much control and work does the city do with the schools?
So when I got on council, the first thing that I was asked to do was reinitiate this partnership with the school. Let me think about this one. Steve Randolph actually did this initiative to work with the school to have them come to council meetings, and then for a representative to go to their student council. That was it, the student council. So my job was to work with their student council, and I think they had kind of a student council set up where they would have almost similar to city council. They would have meetings and talk about what was going on in the school and issues in the school. And my job was to get involved with the school there. Then what happened was we had an issue with our mayor at that time. I think I was less than a month into my tenure as city council. So
That was our kid tickling mayor, right?
No comment.
No comment.
But things went into turmoil there, and council was struggling to stay strong and get through that. And that's when Mayor Levy came on, and that initiative just kind of went to the wayside. And so as mayor, I'll bring that back. I think that was a great opportunity to unify with the city. The strange thing is I believe some of the board meetings, the school board meetings, are the same time as our meetings. So we can't go to those. So I wish they would change them maybe to a Wednesday night, and then we could go to those meetings too as city council and see what's going on there. But we work with the school. We have a meeting every 3 months, and we have a meeting with all the taxing entities. I think we talked about this in one of our long conversations about, you were concerned that we weren't working with the county, we weren't working with fire or the school, but we have been. We just don't announce it. And every 3 months we work with the commissioners. We have a meeting with the commissioners, the fire, ambulance, the school board, city council's there, the city staff, and we do a round table and we talk about the issues, and what concerns are going on. And then we bounce ideas back and forth. So we are all working together. We're just not publicizing it. So there's a lot of great things that are going on behind the scenes that council's doing to make the community better, the county better. And we're considering things like, this was just thrown off on the table, is combining insurance. And that would save a lot of money in insurance if the city and the county can combine employee insurance. Think about that, how much money we would save, because then it would be a group policy instead of an individual policy.
Let's shift gears for a second when it comes to the things that have happened in Woodland Park. You have a list because you showed it to me. Talk to me about some things, because I think if we're going to move forward as a town, if we're going to progress as a town, we're not going to stay stagnant. I want to see a thriving downtown. I don't want the opinion of the school to be, well, there's an image problem, but it's not really a problem. We obviously have some great teachers. I've known some of the teachers and the principals and stuff that we have. And so, but let's talk about some changes that have happened in Woodland Park since you've been here. And then let's go with, I don't mind talking about the past. I love it. But then I want to move into the future. So tell me about some things. Let's go through that little list you had.
Okay. This is going to be a shocker for a lot of the people that are new to this community. And I moved here in 2001, and Michael and I talked briefly in the last couple of days. And I thought, if I look at the future, I need to know the past. And I've been here long enough to know the past. And the other candidates have also. I just don't know how much they've been paying attention. And so here's my list of things that have changed or come to Woodland Park since 2001. All right, here we go. Walmart, Starbucks, Walgreens, Int Credit Union, Safeway Shopping Center, AutoZone, Trail Ridge Apartments, Mining Exchange, Community Bank, which is kind of funny. That used to be John DeVoe's car lot, if you were here long enough.
Okay, I remember. I wasn't here, but I remember driving through and going, there was a car lot there. I remember the car lot.
Used to be John DeVoe's car lot when he was doing that. Arby's, Sonic, Big O Tires. It used to be a car wash. In fact, Beer Works used to be.
Beer Works used to be Big O, yeah. And before it was Big O, it was a motorcycle shop.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Beer Works, the flower shop. So I'm going back. I'm kind of just going down the road, literally going down 67 of what has changed or what is new. The flower shop, Tweeds, which used to be a real estate building. And then obviously it was purchased for Tweeds. Dinosaur Resource Museum, we already know that. Michael's Motorcycle Works, which is now Judge's Bar and Grill.
Yep.
That used to be a motorcycle shop. Then it was a hot dog shop. Then it was a restaurant, and now it's Judges. The gun shop, Mountain Wookiees, Woodland Park Hardware, Memorial Park Remodel, Joni's Deli, Cafe Leo, the Catholic Church. People forget about that. That's a
When did the
brand new
Catholic Church come in?
Probably about 5 years ago.
Man, has it only been 5 years?
It hasn't been very long. The changes in this town have been phenomenal in 20 years. And let me keep going. It's
Yeah.
remodel of Memorial Park. We got that one. Joni's Deli. Okay. Changes in City Market area. Think about all of the businesses in City Market. They're all different.
Yeah.
The dollar store, the aquatic center. I'm going to jump around here. Karis Bible College. That was a big one that came in. Meadowood Sports Complex, the turf.
That's a small way to put Karis. That's the largest construction project ever to happen in Teller County, even considering Cripple Creek, the casinos. Karis is the largest construction project ever to happen in Teller County.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Let me avoid that.
Keep going. Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Dollar store. I think the new turf, the skate park. Remember the skate park? That's new, right across from.
I remember when that
the
came
BMX
in.
Park, Tractor Supply, the hospital. That was a big project right there. So maybe the hospital was bigger than Karis. I don't know.
Nah.
You don't think so?
Not that 3,000. They got an auditorium that can seat half the people in Woodland Park.
Yeah.
And they're still building. And so
they are. The apartments on 67, right there at Valley View. The row of houses on 67. You know that row of houses that look all the same? That wasn't there when I got there. Stone Ridge. Stone Ridge has blown up. And I'm sure there's about 30 more things on there. But my point of listing all of these is that this town is changing. I mean, it is changing. It is molding. It is. So as a council member, I think these are all great places that are here, and I think they're here to stay. And I want to slow down this metamorphosis of Woodland Park. Think about it. It is morphing. A lot of these businesses have been here quite a while, so that's a good thing. And so the key is that, like I talked, those 3 months of the year, because it's seasonal, to make sure that these businesses can keep their doors open.
So where, with all of that change and change is happening everywhere. Colorado Springs is about to build the largest building in 7-state radius with a new Amazon distribution center.
Yep.
And so Amazon is coming to Colorado Springs. And when you say that out loud, they are building the biggest building in 7 states right there in Colorado Springs. They're going to add over 1,000 jobs there in Colorado Springs. It will affect Woodland Park. And so what do you see for the future? And I don't know if there's projections. I haven't been sitting on council for 6 years. But what are the projections for population that you have heard, talked about? What have y'all looked at for a projection? Let's say just the next 10, 20 years. Because you've been here 19, you're talking about since 2001, and it's 2020, and all these changes that have happened. So what does the next 20 years in your mind look like for Woodland Park?
All right. So let's, knowing how much has changed, as a council member, water supply, that's very important. Right now we're built out for 12,000 people. That's
okay.
Where 12,200, the 200 is not the point, but so we are planning to build a reservoir, that'll hold drought, that if we have a drought, that'll have water supply for our community up to a year. I can't imagine a drought more than a couple months, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Insurance.
We already purchase water. We already have to purchase water.
There's three locations where we get water. We get the Homestead pipeline. We have, I think, 5 or 6 wells that are at the golf course. and then we have natural water. And so that's our three sources. The natural water, by law, when we receive that, we have to put it back into we have to redeposit it back into the land or into the streams, and we do that, and that goes to our build out or our upgrade to the wastewater treatment plant. That was critical. We had to do that because we were at 125% capacity, and the state was about to fine us, and the fine was not small, and so we had to upgrade it to do for better capacity. We're at 83% capacity, and that number might be a little high. It might be lower than that. And plus the water going out of that facility now is almost cleaner than what's coming out of your faucet. That's how incredible the upgrade is. So that water goes into a stream, that stream goes down to Manitou Lake. And so that's the watershed, the Denver watershed there. So as you know, that's kind of the
Denver drinks our poop water, just let you guys know.
Good for them.
True story. So water's going to be an issue with growth, but like you said, we're talking about we're talking about building reservoirs. What else is going to be some issues that you see? Not issues, but what do we need to look at going forward? I mean, 12,000 people. We're at 8,500, and people are pissed about traffic. If we get 12,000 people in town, they're gonna riot or something. So talk to me about some of the issues we're gonna face if we project to 12,200 people.
Traffic is definitely an issue. Our roads are going to have to improve. There's every election cycle, we talk about this bypass. We talk about the bypass. An interesting history, US 24. I always crack up when I think about it. It's been around since 1929, I believe. US 24 actually starts in Pontiac, Michigan, and it goes all the way through Kansas City, and it ends at Minturn, Colorado. So it is a US highway. It was one of the main corridors through the United States before, we had the bigger highways. So
it's one of only five passes that go over the Rocky Mountains through Colorado.
Process this information. When you're in Colorado Springs and you want to get to Breckenridge, you have three options. You can drive down to Pueblo and go up whatever highway that is. You can drive up to Denver and go up either 287, I think, through Conifer.
285.
Right, I-70.
Yep.
So you have to drive 60 miles north or south if you don't want to go up US 24. So CDOT controls US 24. So when people say, hey, let's slow down the traffic, well, then you have to go to CDOT, and there's a committee, and there's levels of bureaucracy there that you will never see in Woodland Park, but it is 10 layers deep. And they own all the stoplights. There's no stoplights that Woodland Park actually owns, if you think about it. And so when we talk about a bypass, if it ever comes to fruition, it would actually be mostly in Teller County. And it would be where the Walmart is, probably before Walmart, and then it would end up at Trout Creek. That's kind of the plan. So between the hospital and the waste treatment.
Unless you start thinking like Elon Musk, and he went to the Los Angeles City Council and said, I want to build a tunnel under Los Angeles. And the Los Angeles City Council said, okay, build the tunnel. And he did. And so could Elon Musk come in and build a tunnel under 24? Because the only way to do the bypass is, one, take people's land, which turns into a 20-year court battle, eminent domain.
Yeah.
Or we elevate 24, so we build a double-decker. That ain't going to happen because nobody wants Pikes Peak view being blocked. So the other option is, hey, if they can dig under LA, maybe they can dig under 24. just
Let me,
be futuristically thinking.
let me throw it out even more futuristically.
All right, talk to me.
The development of cars are starting to learn how to self-drive.
Absolutely.
They're talking about 5-10 years in the future where cars know where the other cars are. And so in 20 years, are we going to have traffic? Because now the cars are automated. They're going to be self-driving. They're going to be able to move through towns in more of an efficient manner than we do now. I mean, everybody drives different. And the hilarious part, everybody thinks they drive good. If you ask anybody, they're great drivers. That's obviously another debate. But so 10, 20 years from now, we're going to be talking about a bypass, but probably then it won't be needed. The other thing is, if it's statistically, if we take the full year of Woodland Park traffic and we do an average, the only time we have traffic is in the summer months. I mean, do we have traffic right now? Can you drive around town without any problems? Don't lie. Don't
No,
lie.
but for me, traffic isn't an issue because
Right.
drive to Denver and you're like, that's traffic.
That's traffic.
So
Yes.
leave Wood. So I think that our road management could be better. I think that there could be alternative routes through town. But the problem is we're not looking at alternative routes. We're allowing the county to shut down routes. And that has happened in the neighborhood I live in. And I'm hearing this now. This is just rumors, but there are rumors that the county road that runs behind Walmart, that the gentleman who owns most of the land, both sides of the road, he would like to shut that road down. And he's willing to give property to the county to do a turnaround so they could turn around a semi. And those county commissioners who have shut down Laurel Avenue are talking about this. Now, this is out of city council's control because it is a county issue, but that's going to I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's going to greatly affect the traffic through town when they start shutting down alternative routes. You can't go this way. You can't, and they're already doing that. So you can't say they're not going to do it because they already have. But traffic is an issue for people. And on top of that, that then birthed another issue this past year that kind of blew up, blew out, and went away. And that was the deer issue. There was this
Yes.
deer issue that came through, and it started with the law enforcement. It was Chief Miles DeYoung who went to wildlife agents. It wasn't wildlife who came to us and said, hey, you have a deer problem. It was Chief Miles who went to them and said, we have a problem, and what can we do to fix it? And then that turned into a huge debacle around It turned into a debacle. It caused one council member to resign. It caused citizens who had spent time and effort to try to come up with solutions. And then all of a sudden now it kind of disappeared. It faded away. And it was like, do we really have a deer problem? And so where are you at on the deer population and that whole thing that happened this past year?
So I can sum that up pretty quickly. Miles actually went to the chief of police and Miles, the chief of police, actually went to the city manager and said, hey, we've got an issue here. We're tired of picking up dead deer on 67 every day. I know there's a problem because I would go to coffee in the morning. I would drive over to Safeway and do my normal Starbucks. If you want to know where I am at Starbucks, probably at 7 a.m. every morning. And
I support local, and I go to Cafe Leo.
I go there.
I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. I love Starbucks too.
So I'm addicted. It's a curse. I will tell you.
I got you.
So I remember driving one morning and I saw about 3 deer on the side of the road, and I slowed down and a bunch of other people slowed down, and other coming down 67, like going towards Decker, people were flying. They weren't even going, they were going well over the speed limit. And I was like, oh man, I hope those deer don't get hit. So I go and get my coffee and I come back. Sure enough, there's a deer dead in the street. And people just need to slow down. I mean, it's the speed limit is there for in town. I mean,
But let's talk about that, because we
Yeah.
did talk about it for a second. We have to deal with CDOT when we're talking about 67 and 24.
Correct.
And I don't think anyone, at least in my mind, when I'm coming from Deckers and I hit the golf course and I'm still doing 50 miles an hour, and probably legally, you could, not legally, but you could probably get away with doing 55 and not get pulled over. And you're coming through and you're coming past Sunnywood and you're coming into those areas. It's still 50 miles an hour up until like almost Kelly Road.
It's crazy. I know.
So
it's crazy.
I know we have to deal with CDOT because they're in charge of the speed limit. But I think that there has been a lack of city council members and maybe city employees. Maybe it's the city employees that have to get after them. Maybe it's city council. But it doesn't matter who controls those streets. This is our town. And if we have to be on CDOT's front door every day fighting to get those speed limits changed for safety issues, then that's what a council member, that's what a city employee, whoever is in charge of talking, communicating, doing that stuff with CDOT, they have to stay after them, because they don't care about Woodland Park. They don't. They care about their roads. They don't really care about Woodland Park. And so I think with some of these issues, though, the control, and this is the other freaking debacle we're getting into, because we made deals 25 years ago with developers that now are coming due. And you know what I'm talking about up on 67, the developments and
the turn lanes.
The turn lanes and stuff like that. And these are things that happened 25 years ago, and now all of a sudden they're coming due. But there is a blow up. There is this. They're letting different people develop and different things, and so I feel like there is maybe some foresight that has to happen with, whether it be city council members that have the foresight to say, hey, we have to start pushing this issue now if we're going to make a change 5 years down the road. And that was kind of where I was going with that DDA thing. Was I know legally, I've actually spoken with the lawyers, I've spoken with other people in town that know the ins and outs of the DDA. We can't legally dismantle the DDA. It can't happen. And so the only way that can happen is if we start now, and not say dismantle it because we want to do away with the TIF stuff, but the DDA could be run by an administrator outside the city. It would be legal to do it that way, and we wouldn't have this, in my opinion, good old boys club that runs the DDA. And so having foresight in some of these issues like the speed and going, whatever we have to do at whatever cost it is to go to CDOT to make this happen. The speed limit on 67 coming into town should slow down from at least 50 to 45, maybe into the 35 range. I believe, especially as population grows out towards the golf course, as we continue to build more homes, more condos, more tiny homes, whatever's coming that way, there's just going to be more traffic. That also brings me to another hot subject that I know you're going to love to talk about, and that is Charis Bible College.
How about this, Michael, before we go any further?
Okay. Yep.
Let me address the 4 issues you brought up real quick.
Perfect. Hit them
around real quick. The deer issue, I don't want to be known as the city that kills deer.
Nah.
Period. Okay.
I'd like to be known as the city who embrace them.
Yes, exactly. I think the committee is still going. There's still work being done in the background to look at signs, look at driver education. The city manager is dealing with that and doing all that work.
Is there work in the background on a hunt?
In the background.
Is there work in the background on a hunt?
No hunt stuff.
If you become mayor, would you vote for a hunt?
No.
Hey, that answers. That's what people want to hear.
So because I don't have all the information. The bottom line is, in 2008, they had a 780,000 deer population in Colorado. That's a lot.
Yep.
2019, they had a 400,000. So the state population is going down. That's why you're not seeing more deer tags.
Well, and then people need to realize that the revenue that comes in because of hunting in this state is incredibly profitable, and the reason why our elk populations have gone through the roof is because we embrace that hunting. Deer populations, there are some theories on why the deer population has dropped,
Right.
but like you said, it has dropped statewide. But it ain't. I mean, I love the natural corridor. We are in a natural corridor, a migration corridor for mule deer,
Right.
and we will always be in a natural corridor. I found it funny that there were council members who wanted to kill deer when they lived hundreds of yards away from the national forest, where if they could go get a tag, you could go kill that same deer that's walking through your yard is also walking through the national forest just a few hundred yards away. And so, no, I'm glad to hear you be precise and definite that you're not for the hunting of deer in our town. So,
Period. Is it a deer issue or is it a population growth issue? We don't know. I've never hit a deer.
I actually have hit a
For
deer.
19 years.
Yeah, I've hit a deer, but I hit a deer out by West Creek. So it wasn't like I was on a dirt road off of West Creek and it was my fault. I was doing 20 miles an hour. I'm looking at these deer across the road and the straggler comes out. I was only doing 20 miles an hour, but so I understand that when we live amongst wildlife and we live in a place that I followed 700-pound bears through town, and I love that about Woodland Park. I love that on any given day you can see wildlife, bobcats, mountain lions, deer, bears, all of these things, and to be able to live in harmony with wildlife says something about us as a community, but it just makes us better people. So I'm with you.
Let me
Let's
answer
keep the
those
deer.
other two questions real quick. Speed limit on 67.
Let's do it.
I live down there. I live off the golf course.
Yep.
So does Paul Sawyer. So that's why he's so passionate about that turn lane issue. We've already been told by CDOT that if we put those markers in there or the checkers for speed, they're going to base the speed limit of that road on the average speed limit. They're not going to look at, well, it should be 45. I agree. It should be 45 all the way past the golf course. Heck, all the way to Manitou Lake almost. I can't believe how fast people drive in that area. If you've ever hiked over by the Lions camp, you just hear cars flying through there. You're like, oh my God, no wonder we have so many deer dead. People they have no conscience that a deer could just jump out in front of them at any moment. But so we've had that discussion with CDOT on that speed limit there. I'm sure that can be brought back up. And
so what you're saying is you've had the discussion and CDOT's answer is, if we do this study, we may increase the speed limit.
Right. That's the scary part. And when we heard that, we went, ooh, I don't want this study then. Or, I mean, we can do the study, but the turn lanes will slow things down too, I think. And the turn lanes, yes, the city is at partial fault with the turn lanes. Shame on us. I wasn't a part of it, obviously. We should have built those turn lanes 15 years ago when the price of doing it was $200,000, and the money that was given to us by the post office, the police department, the school. There's a school there. The concern with that is what we're going to do is we're going to take it really, after everything's said and done, it'll cost about $550,000 because of the pot of money that was given by the entities there and the new tiny home village money. So we're going to go ahead and hold off on one road being paved, either Kelly or Rampart, hold it off for 1 year and take those funds out of the 410 account and build the turn lanes. So we're not taking any money from anybody. We're just going to take our 10-year paving plan and just adjust it a little bit. And that's how we're going to do that. Here's the scary part, and here's why it gets worse. I've asked CDOT to give us a letter. I've asked the city manager and our city attorney to get us a letter from CDOT claiming what I've heard and what I've been told, that if we don't put in a turn lane and the development goes in, that they're going to put a concrete barrier at that turn section there and not allow anybody to turn in there until we do turn lanes. So can you imagine when the parents are taking their kids to school that they have to drive down to the golf course, turn around, and then come back to turn into that? Can you believe our police department has to now do a U-turn? What's worse, a U-turn on 50 miles an hour, or I think it's 50 miles an hour down there.
That's 50.
Or turn lanes. And so that.
But see, our hand is being forced now. Like they're forcing our hand into something, and I don't like that. And I think as a home run town, when we are fighting, I don't know if it's because of lack of foresight. Obviously, they made a mistake. We should have been looking at this years ago. Should have been looking at this with the police station, with the post office, with the Colorado Christian school that's there. But I don't like being forced into something is never the best way to go into it.
Agreed.
And so, I think that does reflect on council. I'm not saying it reflects on your time in council. I'm saying it reflects on council and how that's happened, how it's happened. This is a touchy subject here. What do you think of the new city manager? And don't give me, you can give me your political answer, but how is he doing his job? He's been in office, he's been in that position now almost 2 years, year and a half. How's it going? We've had some turnover in the city. We've had some positions that have been hard to fill.
We've always had turnover.
Yep.
I'm going to go from more of a life experience to describe what's going on there.
Okay.
You all know that I work for Oracle. I'm a database administrator. I've been there 22 years. 5 years ago, we had a new VP come in, and the new VP made some serious changes. Just things that everybody went, what the heck is this guy thinking? And so we had a lot of people quit. We had a lot of people decide to go to other departments. The one thing he did was take a 30-mile work at home limit. If you were more than 30 miles away from an Oracle office, you didn't have to go into the office. You could work from home. I worked from home for 15 years. And so all of a sudden this change came where they moved it to 50 miles. Okay, now I have to drive into an office. That's 60 miles a day. It takes an hour to drive there. So that's 2 hours out of my day. It was ridiculous. I looked at moving on to another job. But, I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at. So I look at Darren, our new city manager, as the CEO coming in and making changes. And whether you like those changes or not, you have to step back and go, the city council has given the city manager directive to do certain things, right? Make sure the budget's good. Make sure the city's running well. He's administrative, but he is the CEO. And we are the board of directors above him. And so we say, hey, we want you to do this, 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 and this. Okay. He doesn't come back and say, well, I'm going to do it this way, and this way. His job as the CEO is to get what we requested done. The sad part is something, the culture was there for 20 years with the prior city manager. He was public works director, and then for 10 years, he was city manager. And he had a certain way of doing things. So when you have a new city manager come in, there's going to be people that like it and there's going to be people that don't. I think he's a good guy. He means well. He wants to get things done. He has a different approach to how our city hall should look. And so that's where I think we need to let it play out a little bit longer and see how he does. He's made some good changes. He's made some questionable changes, but all in all, the city's doing well.
I like how you put that. He's a good guy. He means well. He's doing, it's shading around the question. Is the job getting done even if he means well? And I understand what you're saying. Give him some more time. I've met him a few times. I've talked to him, had some meetings with him, and the jury is still out for me as well. And maybe that's proportionately part of my own personal motivations for running for city council is to get a closer look and to look into those things even closer. We've been going for an hour and it feels like 5 minutes.
Let me say one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
We've done some changes internally in City Hall, which is great. We have an HR manager now. We've got an IT department that I pushed for 4 years. That is a godsend.
You've heard me scream about marketing and IT from right there in city council chambers and how we have to catch up.
And so the other thing is that now that we have a new city manager, we're noticing a lot of policies that are missing internally, and those are being addressed. So there's a lot of policy changes, a lot of new policies that had some gray area in the past 10 years that we're addressing. So there's a lot of things that are moving and shaking in City Hall. I'm confident that as time goes on, these things will work themselves out. You can't go in and expect changes overnight. It just does not work that way. You can't plant a tree and expect it to be an adult tree in 2 weeks. It takes years. I'm not going to go years. That's insane. But I'm going to give our city manager some more time to iron out the wrinkles and see where he goes. He has a vision. And he knows he sees it. And there's some things that are being taken care of that were not addressed with the prior city manager. And, some people like it, some people don't, but that's, as me, an employee at Oracle, I couldn't go to my boss and say, hey, you need to do something with this VP. That doesn't work that way. Okay.
No, I'm with you. And it is, time will be the tell. Right. When we look at our city manager, and I've actually been looking into like what's the average new city manager in different places and seeing
2 years.
It's 2 years, right? So like 2 years. I want to touch, like I said, we've been going for an hour, but this has been a brilliant talk. Thank you so much, Noel, for this. But I want to ask a couple more things.
Yes.
What is the health of the aquatic center, and what kind of, I'm not talking about going backwards. We got to move forward. We got to make this thing successful. We got to make this thing profitable. I believe all of those things. I believe we have to do that. Where are we now with that? Where are we at in the health of the aquatic center? Where is the momentum at?
So right now our bond debt is around 10 million. It's going to be paid off in 2032.
Okay.
12 years. Yeah, 977,000 a year.
Okay.
That's the bond debt. That's separate. The other issue is that, how much comes out of the general fund to support the aquatic center? I think that's your question. We were told initially when we approved it was going to be $98,000 a year, that we were going to be in the red. That's doable. Right now we're about 250 to 300,000 in the red. We know it's a problem. We know we're trying to address it. We're looking at setting up events. We're looking at trying to really promote the aquatic center. Yes, we know it's an issue. We're looking at it. We magically can't make it great. It has to grow. And
let's not skip over those numbers real quick. We were willing to accept $98,000.
Yep.
Right. What we're at 200 and what?
250,000 in the red.
200 a year for the aquatic center, where we were thinking it was going to be more of about 100,000. It's more like 250,000. So more than double plus some.
Yeah. Hey, it's a shocker. Don't get me wrong, but the train has left the station. We can't. So we have to move forward and figure out how to address those concerns. We've been talking about it for a while behind the scenes. We're working with the Park and Rec department to improve those numbers. We have a game plan. So like I said, let's be patient and move forward. And we can only make small changes. We can't just make these huge changes at the moment. And patience, I ask people to be patient. Yes, we know it's a problem.
All right. We don't have to beat it, but I'm glad that there is some
Horse is dead.
moving into this next 4 years. We're looking at the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
The other thing I wanted to address, because you actually mentioned this, I actually caught this in the candidates forum from 2018. What is the health of our law enforcement? Back in 2018, you said things like you felt like they're underpaid. You
Right.
even said, I don't know if you said this. I don't know if I can say this, but I think we're understaffed. And you said that in the candidate forum. So it's been 2 years.
Yes.
What's your take on the health of our law enforcement and our security and safety?
So if you've been following me on council, I have always been a proponent for better pay for our police officers. We were at the bottom of the pay scale for police officers 4 years ago. I worked with the city manager and I pleaded to council that we need to increase those salaries. And my first number was 5,000. Let's increase the base salary. I think at that time it was 36,000 a year. Can you imagine? That's hard. That is below poverty. And I said, let's increase it to 41,000 immediately. And the city manager and I at that time, we had our moments. we'll just keep it gentle. And I said, you can increase that pay right now. You don't even have to come to council to do it. You can just immediately say, okay, we're going to do starting salary at 41,000. And so over time, the council, I pleaded for the council to raise those salaries. They have been raised. I think the starting salary right now is 46,000. If you look at the current positions that are open, one is 46 and the other is 51,000. So and then they get a lot of overtime. So don't think that's what they're making. They make a lot of overtime. Our police department is healthy at the moment. We did have 5 officers leave 3 months ago, but they've been replaced already. And we have a lot of new officers. I think Miles is doing a good job. You might hear differences here and there. He's keeping the officers. My goal is retention, employee retention. You know how much it costs to train somebody? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it costs the city more to train somebody than to keep them. So why don't we take that money that we would have to train people and add it to their salaries, and we'd actually save money in the long time, in the long run. So experience is very important. And I think if we keep our employees around, we pay them well, we don't have to incur the cost of training. Think about, I mean, it's, to me,
No. There's employee turnover costs minimum 10 or 15 grand an employee. Minimum. That's minimum.
There's people in council that are going to argue with me and say, well, that, we're looking at the numbers. We're looking at what they pay them over here and over here. You know what? This is our city. This isn't Manitou. This isn't Colorado Springs. This isn't Fountain. This is our city. We can pay people what we think they should make, and we have to respect that. And that's how I feel about
I'm
that.
with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. We may differ on a few things, because I think that, sometimes there needs to be change to springboard some of those things, and maybe it's not changing all the officers.
Remember,
whatever.
I'm out here. I can't go to the police department and tell them how to run their police department. That's not my job as a council member.
Absolutely.
That's the manager's job, and that's the police chief of police. We have to trust him.
But that's actually a ballot initiative this year, with the police chief actually coming under the city manager instead of
that. All that is just aligning it with the other departments. That's all it's doing.
But there's reasons why it was lying that way to begin with, though. I understand that you think maybe, or other people in the city think, that it's out of line because we're trying to line it up with the other departments. But there is a very specific reason and history behind why the police chief needs to be accountable to the council in a stance. And so I don't necessarily agree with that ballot initiative myself. I understand the reasoning and what the argument for it is. I understand the argument that
it's going to a vote of the people.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it is.
And both sides will be presented.
Absolutely.
And that's the great thing, is that both sides will be presented and you can vote.
We got quite a few ballot initiatives on the ballot. 11. So and then let's just comprehensive plan. Give me a Cliff Notes version of what is going to happen over the next 4 years, maybe even 8 years. Or hopefully it's not over 8 years, but over the next 4 years of looking at a new comprehensive plan, revising the comprehensive plan, updating the comprehensive plan. What are your take on how important that is for the future of Woodland Park?
Right. Can I run and grab my charger for my laptop? It's
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
you can
go
talk
get it.
about some things for
I got
minutes.
you covered. I can eat 2 minutes for lunch. Hey, thanks for joining right now on the Woodland Park Underground. We're speaking with Noel Sawyer. He's a sitting council member. He is running for mayor. This is not an endorsement of Noel Sawyer. This is simply to let you know more about him, to get his take, to have more of a conversation with him. I open this forum up and I encourage all the candidates, if you'd like to come on the Underground and give your take on some of these issues that Noel's been talking about, let me know and we will get you scheduled to come on the Woodland Park Underground, talk with Michael Dalton for council. So we'll finish up. Oh crap. We're going to finish this up, and he's got him a little, you got your charger in now?
Got my charger.
All right, talk to us about the comprehensive plan.
So the comprehensive plan we're supposed to do every 10 years. Obviously, the world changes around us, and the comprehensive plan is outdated. Technology is exponentially getting better. And our comprehensive plan, if you've ever read it, you'll see it's a little outdated. And so really, the last time we did the comprehensive plan, I wasn't involved, but it was a huge community effort. If you look at it now and you see how many people involved, it's amazing. And so this is going to be a great time for the community to come together and bring out ideas and to really see where the future of Woodland Park is going based on what the community wants. So it's not me making the decision as mayor, it's the community making the decision. And the comprehensive plan is going to cost, you'd hate to hear that number, but $100,000, and then 50,000 of it is going to be a grant money. So really the cost out of us is $50,000. But if you divide that by 10 years, it's only $5,000 a year. So if you really take it and spread out the cost, it's not that big of a deal.
It's not that big of a deal. All right, Noel. Well, hey, this has been fun, man. It's gone quick. We were talking about 30, and we did an hour and 15.
I know.
No problem.
I remember we talked this morning before, and I said, I don't think we have that much to talk about. And I've got papers of stuff to talk about. I mean, if you go to my website, Sawyer from
Mayor, plug all those things.
Plug away. NoelSawyer.com will redirect to my Facebook page. I'm going to change that because I actually have multiple websites. NoelSawyer.com. Facebook is Sawyer for Mayor. And then my website is SawyerForMayor.com. That actually takes you to a completely different website. I think
you just did a meet and greet yesterday. Do you have any more meet and greet scheduled coming up?
Cafe Leo was great. There was a commercial being filmed there too at the same time. Charlie Chambers did that. I'll give a plug for Charlie.
Charlie.
And Cindy Valet.
Yep.
I can't say her name very well, but she is a great photographer. She'll be part of that too, I believe. What else? Let's see. Meet and greets. People's schedules are tough, so I'm going to work on a different type of meet and greet. I think I'm going to ask, we're going to work on coming to people's houses and talk with people at their houses, and signs. Signs are an issue. I think Val has gobbled up all the sign locations. It's so funny. He told me he was just going to put out a few signs. Last count. Are you ready? 27.
How many? Valcar's got 27 signs.
27 signs around town.
You know what? Somebody told me
they're up like weeds.
No, hey, listen. If I said it, and I said on this podcast, or I said a little earlier, that this isn't an endorsement for Noel. This is simply to get to know Noel.
Right.
And I've invited other candidates on to speak with me. I will say flat out, I will never vote for Val Carr for mayor. And that's just me personally. And so if you're going to vote with the underground, don't vote for Val. So you can vote for whoever else you want. There's Kelly Case, Darwin Nakarada, and Noel Sawyer are three other choices. That's just me personally. That's my personal vote. I'm a citizen of Woodland Park. I'll make that vote myself. But I will still invite Val to come on. And if he does become our mayor and I happen to get on council, it'll be fun. So it'll be a good time.
Val means well. He's very detail oriented. He looks at issues to me too much.
You don't have to plug any more of him.
Yeah,
That's
I'm not
cool.
going to say
Don't
anything.
yeah, don't worry. I know you're very respectful, Noel, and I
Right.
definitely think that that's a character trait that a mayor needs is someone who can look at someone, disagree with them, but still be very respectful. So I definitely appreciate that. I also very much appreciate over the past 4 years how you've treated me personally, even when there's been times in council that other council members openly haven't done that. And you've been so nice, but you have always been respectful to me and been very communicative. Our communication has always been easy for you or for me to talk with you. So I definitely appreciate that. Thanks for coming on today.
You're welcome.
You came on the underground, Noel. You broke some history today. First candidate on the underground.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, we'll be in touch.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later. Oh, what a beautiful podcast. Thanks for joining the Woodland Park Underground today. You've been listening to Michael Dalton, #the Underground, and Noel Sawyer, candidate for mayor 2020. The elections are April 7th. It's a mail-in ballot. If you're not registered to vote, make sure you register to vote. If you have an issue getting your ballot in the mail, go by and see Suzanne Leclerc at the city hall. She'll take care of you. She'll get you all taken care of. Make sure that you get a ballot. Again, ballots will go out in mid-March. They are due April 7th, 2020. All you really need to remember is Dalton for council, #the underground. We'll talk to you guys later. It's been fun. I enjoyed today. It was good. Good.